Vicky Gunvalson has been sued for elder abuse. Jax Taylor has entered himself into a treatment facility, and John Jansen is ready to mention it all on Shannon Storm's Beador. I hope you're ready because we got a jam-packed episode today. Let's get it. You're listening to No Filter with Zack Pack, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. Welcome on in, everybody in the club. What's going on? Let's get it. Okay, we have a lot to break down. We're gonna get into the Vicky of it all. We're gonna get into the Jax of it all. We're gonna get into the John Jansen. But first off, we do have a new episode of the Pop Report that dropped today. So if you want, it's a very lively episode of the Pop Report. We have AJ Gibson on. He gives us his thoughts on a possible Real Housewives of New Jersey reboot, which, by the way, Andy Cohen went on his radio show this morning and has clarified that he did not claim that there is going to be a full reboot of Real Housewives of New Jersey. He's like, everything I've said on the radio show this week is nothing new than I haven't already said before. He's like, I'm not saying that it is going to be all new faces, but we're going to revamp it in some way, basically. And it may be all new faces. It may be half the cast. Like, no casting decisions have been made, so it's like TBD. But for now, he's just like, listen, nothing is official, but we are going to revamp it in some way because this chapter of Jersey is clearly closed. We don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something, right? So he clarified he was not confirming that there was an official reboot coming. But I mean, listen, Atlanta was technically like a reboot, right? And they kept Drew and they kept Kenya. So we'll see how it unfolds with the new season, but at least for now, they're saying, like Vanderpump Rules, this chapter has come to an end. We'll see what we do with the show moving forward. So just wanted to clarify that. But we get AJ Gibson. Not sure if you guys are familiar with him. He was on No Filter years ago when he was promoting his book, Flipping the Script. He's a TV host. He was a regular on Wendy Williams. He has done a lot of like entertainment hosting and very pop culture savvy author, TV host. So definitely check out our newest episode with AJ Gibson on the Pop Report. We get into the Olympics, the controversy of the opening ceremony, which created a very lively discussion. A very lively discussion for sure, because obviously Candace Cameron Bure has had her opinions about things, and Jodie Sweetin, her Fuller House co-star, has also weighed in. So we get into it all. And it was a very fun episode to tape, but it did get a little dicey at some points, which I kind of like. I like a difference of opinion. I like looking at both sides of the coin. It's kind of nice when I'm not just solo and I have other people to break these things down with, and other people that I can have, a solid, respectful conversation with that can maybe help see things differently, and vice versa. Mallory says Pop Report episode was really good. Yay! I'm excited that you guys are enjoying it so far. Laura says, I was proud of Zach during that discussion. He was fair to both sides. Everyone can have an opinion. Yes. So just prefacing, warning you now. I don't want to say I was defending Candace Cameron Bure's point, but I was defending her right to have a point, right? I was like, I understand the Christian outrage. I understand why a lot of Catholics are upset or they feel offended by the opening ceremony. And we get into it, right? And was it a parody of The Last Supper? Wasn't it? What did the artist have to say? So, yeah. Stacy says, when will we get the next Disaster Daters? It's out. So it dropped yesterday on Tuesday, dropped Tuesday afternoon. I guess before we dive into the tea, let's talk about Disaster Daters. I mean, I will say, since the episode has dropped, this is probably the episode that we've gotten the most reaction from people. My DMs have been flooded with people having opinions as they're listening to the episode, and then having their opinions evolve and change by the end of the episode. And so what I will say is this: when it comes to Disaster, it's a very raw episode of Disaster Daters. Mallory said Disaster Daters was so good. It's a very raw episode. I'm not gonna talk about the Olympics. I see people are, like, chiming in about the last supper. If you want the conversation with the Olympics, go to the Pop Report for that. But when it comes to disaster daters, um, it was a very raw conversation. I just wanna say I have an abundance of love and respect for Jeff because it's not often I know I can come onto my platforms and be raw and give, hot takes and be on the contrarian side of things, and I open and welcome any heat that comes my way, and I take it. And going into this episode of the Pop Report or sorry, going into this episode of Disaster Daters this week, I was already like bracing myself. I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to look good. I think people are probably going to have an opinion. Like I'm just so used to always having to feeling like my just because I feel like that's the default mode that I often am in these days. When you get beaten up by the internet enough times and you're consistently, branded a certain way, um, you just kind of build up this armor, right? And so I feel like that's where I'm at, especially considering there was somebody that took things that I said on my members only and took them out of context and then got Jeff fired up about those things. So we come into the studio. It's the first time we had seen each other since we were last in studio together. And we immediately just dive into it. And not only do we dive into it, but there are clips of footage that you guys haven't seen that do get shown in this episode. So I recommend you watch it before making a fully baked opinion. And I decided that we're just going to release. So normally we allow Spotify to have exclusivity on the video for the podcast for like a couple weeks until the end of the season. And then we slowly start to air the rest of the episodes, the full video on YouTube. But I just decided for the sake of not having to put Jeff and I in a position where we have to relive this weeks down the line, we're going to release this week's episode on YouTube later today. So you'll get that episode on YouTube before you get the rest of the episodes that have already aired on Spotify, just because I don't want us to have to rehab this conversation weeks down the line. We had the conversation, we worked through it. It's very uncomfortable, it's very raw. There are tears, there's, flashbacks, you get it all. But I have so much love and respect for Jeff because not many people are willing to be open and vulnerable and raw and transparent and open themselves up to criticism or just opinion, maybe not criticism, but just opinions of others. What you're witnessing in this episode is just the two of us really coming, to terms and trying to understand each other's points. And you'll get frustrated at it. You'll go through a range of emotions as you watch the episode. When I watched it back for the first time, I went through a range of emotions. It was a very uncomfortable episode at times. We do drive the train back into the station by the end of it. So before you make any opinions, I suggest you watch it all the way through because I had many people that were like, I'm halfway through watching the episode and here are my thoughts. And I'm just like, be patient. It's a long one. It's a lot to get through, but I promise by the end of it, there will be some resolution. So just be respectful. There's nothing but love and respect between Jeff and I. We're in a great place. We're going to tape our final episode of season 2 this Thursday. And it's a lot. So it's a lot. I really was expecting to not look good in this episode, and I'm surprised by the reaction. But I also, listen, when people like Jeff and I put our hearts on the table and put all the shit on the table and then dissect it for everybody, that's a really challenging thing to do that I think not a lot of people are willing to do. Specifically, I mean, there was a situation. I'm not afraid to reference it, me and Up and Adam, which gets referenced in this episode of Disaster Daters. I wish we would have been able to have a conversation about things and could have hashed things out publicly or privately. But I just think sometimes people are unafraid or are afraid of having difficult conversations and they don't like to take accountability for their actions. And so, I'm grateful that Jeff and I were able to work through this. And it's a very like you feel like you're a fly on the wall in this episode and you're kind of watching this like, am I supposed to be listening to this conversation right now? Like there are moments where you're like, oh, this feels like I'm a peeping Tom, just like peeping in on this private conversation. And it was funny that even the studio that we ended up taping in, which isn't our new studio, it was like our old studio. That was really just like chairs sitting down at a table. And it felt like that Mob Wives reunion, where they're in the warehouse and it's like, we're just going to scrap all the fancy lighting and decor. And we're just going to sit down at a table, Mob Wives warehouse style, and just hash it out. Um, so yeah. Um, let's see. Lori says people who can't talk things out will end up lonely. Yeah. Stacy says we need more honest and raw, real emotion. You get real emotion. You see me break down a couple of times. So Russ says two adults having a conversation and really listening to each other. But that's not how it starts. It's a really difficult start and it gets a little frustrating towards the middle, but then eventually you kind of see the walls start to break down. So definitely check out Disaster Daters. Lori says I looked on Spotify, but maybe too early yesterday. It was released a little later. The flashback music, I can't. I know that was funny. I'm glad that the editor made it light, like brought some levity with the flashback music. That way, yeah. So it was good. That's my opinion. Thank you, Nikki. Yes. Hello from Scotland. Absolutely loving your work, Zach. First time catching you live. So I thought I'd say hello. Love your honesty and sass. Stay fabulous. Thank you, LJ. Val says you and Jeff are great together. Family fights. Yeah. Listen. Get up, Jeff. Yeah. Well, actually, I would say it was the other way around because I wasn't expecting to get into any of this on the show, but I'm glad that we did. And like I said, please be respectful and please be kind to us in the comments because having that level of radical vulnerability is not easy. And most people cannot do that. So respect that we were honest and we were raw. We didn't filter ourselves. We expressed our very real, raw emotions and thoughts and feelings in the moment and we're letting you guys in on that. So please be respectful and know that there's nothing but love and respect between Jeff and I. People are too consumed by the public opinion that they can't be authentic. You and Jeff are very transparent with each other, and it's so nice to see. But not just transparent with each other, but transparent in a public forum. There were points in the taping where I was like, are we really in my head? I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I'm like, are we really going to release this? Like, this is like, I can't tell if we're filming an episode of Disaster Daters or we're just hashing our own shit out right now. And none of the episode was edited, that nothing was taken out. You get it all in its full context. Even the flashback clips, you get those moments unedited in its full context. I made sure to tell the editor, I'm like, don't edit anything out. Let it leave it in exactly as it is and let people make their own decision, whether they see my side or Jeff's side, or I hope they see both sides and don't pick sides, but like people can come to their own conclusions. But no, Jeff very much came in like, get up, Drita, get up, Karen. And I was like, Karen, I was Karen. I was like, oh, we fight. Oh, we getting into it today. I was like, okay, let's go. Security, let's go. It was funny, but it was good. It was good. Jeff was ready to throw verbal hands respectfully. He really was. And how was the makeup sex? Here, hilarious. I appreciated the flashback clips. Well, I said to our editor, I was like, listen, we can't tell the full story without showing what happened in studio that day. So cut it out. Like, even though that footage was originally going to be scrapped and we weren't releasing that episode, I was like, edit the episode. Because at first it was all just raw footage and audio. And I was like, go back, edit it, like mix the audio and all the video together and then cut it into the episode. That way people can see the flashbacks and have the full context for themselves. Okay. Let's dive into the tea because we've spent enough time talking about disasters, but hopefully it like pumped you up enough. This was it's not about the pasta. It's not about the pasta, Lala. Right. And listen, there were more things that it was about that we didn't even really dive into. But for the sake of things getting taken out of context and being delivered to people, I'm going to just say we worked through it. We moved on from it. Nothing but love and respect. Enjoy the episode because it is wildly entertaining. Not to laugh at the context because I understood that you were hurt. No, but like, listen, we can laugh at it, right? Like, it's a situation, it's an experience. Even when we walked out of studio that day, we kind of laughed at it and we're like, God, we're so dramatic. But it's nice to know that people are very riveted by the episode. Like I said, most feedback I've ever gotten from a Disaster Daters episode was this episode. So definitely worth a watch. Okay, let's get into the tea. Vicky, well, where do we want to start? Let's start with Jax Taylor. So it was announced on Tuesday that Jax Taylor, I believe it was first announced by TMZ, and it was announced that Jax Taylor has checked himself into a treatment center while filming the second season of The Valley. Now, interesting because Obviously, we've seen that Brittany has wanted Jax to make efforts to, you know, seek help and maybe seek therapy and work on some things within himself in order to repair his relationship. So it's possible that maybe things came to a head with him and Brittany, and she's like, "We're not getting back together. You've done absolutely nothing to get better." And I believe Ryan Bailey had like a psychic or somebody on his podcast that like referenced that Jax was probably going to go into treatment or seek therapy in season 2, and now we're seeing that kind of play out. So it's unclear what exactly he's seeking treatment for aside from mental health um is really what the report was saying. Yeah, Vanderpump Rules, Jax Taylor begins inpatient treatment for mental health amid contentious split from Brittany Cartwright. So here's the TMZ article. So it is inpatient, so he's likely not going to have his phone. Um, Reps for the Valley and Vanderpump Rules told TMZ Jax has always been candid about his mental health struggles, especially the past few months on his podcast. So it's good that he's actually seeking treatment. Listen, it's hard when you live your life on a reality show, when you live your life openly and you kind of open yourself up to criticism or, allowing other people to comment on your life. I mean, I talk about it and I kind of get into it in Disaster Daters at the end where you see me get really emotional about how it's hard when you just live your life so openly and honestly and vulnerably and then you get judged for that. And I often feel like there are times where I've been chastised for being myself when I feel like it's hard because not many people are willing to go out there and show not just the good sides of them, but the bad sides. And I think very similar to Jax, I'm often branded for only my bad sides, and people often reprimand me or see me or dismiss me only for the bad parts of me. But it's like that's just because most other people aren't willing to put themselves out there fully, completely, and unapologetically. They filter themselves. They put on their fake faces with their fake teeth. And like, you can't buy the smile because nobody wants to believe a chiclet smile, you know? And so that is tough. And so I understand somebody like Jax who often or even Kristen, they're the villains because they're completely themselves. And so they show you the messy sides of them, and that is challenging. You do take on a lot of feedback from people online. And, I can understand how after a while that will weigh on his mental health, especially when you're in a situation where you're going through a divorce. Or, well, I mean, I guess they're not technically getting divorced yet, but they're split. And, everyone's obviously going to take Brittany's side of things. So, understandably, right? Because Jax has proven to be an asshole in the past, but he is a multifaceted person. There is a human side of him, and it's a good thing that he's going and seeking treatment. Nikki B says, with the super chat, Nikki B says, my Citizen app had a photo of the police at Jax's house, and then TMZ had it on. That was about a week ago. Brittany and Cruz weren't there. Listen, it's possible that he's really going through it and was really struggling, and he's lost his wife. He's struggling because I'm sure there's about to be a custody battle if they move into a divorce where he's not going to see his son full time. And I'm sure he's just going through it right now, and he's struggling. And that's, we all have our moments where we struggle. Is he doing this for the gig or for himself? Well, if the police were called, then I'm hoping that it was not just for the gig and he really is um, going to get some help, and it's not like a Rachel Leviss mental health facility, right? Because I don't think the health facility did much for Rachel, but hopefully it does something for Jax. Hopefully it doesn't, push him into victimhood and he doesn't become, you know, a voice for all the male mistresses of the world because we don't need any of that. But hopefully he can go in there, do some self reflection, and come out a better person, a better father for Cruz, and hopefully a better partner for Brittany. Sarah says, I really don't want to comment on someone's mental health for the show or not. Some things might stick. Yeah, I agree. Joe says, who are you referring to with someone with a fake face and fake chiclet smiles? Nobody specifically, Joe. Nobody's, but you can take that however you want to interpret that. And I'm sure some people would take that and take it out of context and go and be like, oh, you're talking about this person or that person or whatever. Listen, I have a fake face. I mean, granted, I haven't gotten Botox or filler, and I haven't gotten Botox since November, and I haven't gotten filler since last summer. So I'm mostly a bare face, and I'm seeing my bare face as I'm watching Disaster Daters and the Pop Report because those close-ups are, close. I'm like, "Oh, I need to get some touch-ups." So, if anything, I'm the one that has a fake. I'm real on the inside, but a little fake on the outside with my fake tanner and my fake face, but, I don't have fake teeth. That's one thing I can stand by. My teeth are real, um, for now. Maybe I will get fake teeth. Mallory says sometimes people are so focused on getting past their bad behavior, they don't actually put it in the work. They just talk the talk. I really hope Jax wants it for himself first and foremost. I agree. It's sad that needing mental care still has a stigma. I think the stigma is going away. And I think talking about it and talking about it more casually as if, this is not a bad thing. This hopefully, can do him a lot of good, I think is, possible with that. Sarah says Kim K saying after a while Botox won't work. Is that true? Um, I mean, I think your body could become immune to it. I don't know if after a while it won't. I don't remember her saying that. Um, I mean, the intention of starting Botox younger is so that it is preventative, so that you don't get deep set lines. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Dun, 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 dun. Boy, you look good. Thank you. But also, listen, there are just little tweaks that I'm used to, like just a little bit of under eye filler. That way, because I can start to see the fillers as it's dissolving. I can see like my under eye starting to get a little more sunken back in, and then all the lines up here. Trust me, you can see it worse on Disaster Daters in the pop report. I'm like, okay, we just need a little bit of, just a little bit of love. I never heard that. I just started Botox at 44. Yeah, I've never heard of it not working, but I can imagine maybe your muscles at some point get immune to it, which is why it's important to maybe switch up brands, try like Botox and Xeomin and Jeuveau, and there are different variations of it, and you can try different versions. They said it was voluntary, but I don't think he's the type to check himself in. Crap must have really hit the fan. Yeah, I think it got to a point where he wasn't doing well, and he's like, I really need to check. Because you also have to think about this too. They're not going to film in the mental care facility. So he's walking away from the cameras to go and take care of himself. So, you know, that's why I want to believe that this is a good thing for him. Okay, let's get into the Vicky Gunvalson of it all. Dr. Yoon says prolonged use of filler and Botox will not work as well. Yeah, that's why you do it in doses, you mix up the brands, you try different things. I mean, I don't know if I would say filler won't work as well. Filler is filler. Like filler is injected into your face. It's hyaluronic acid that's injected and sits underneath your skin. Botox, on the other hand, is being injected into the muscle. So I can understand how maybe your body could potentially build an immunity to it, but that's why it would be important to switch brands and, try you know, different versions. Kim K says it's starting to sag regardless, so she's looking into an upper facelift. Yeah, after a while. Well, here's the thing with filler too. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on like a. And listen, I'm not a doctor, so don't take any of this as medical advice. I'm just giving you my own layman's perspective and opinions and thoughts. But what I've noticed with filler is that the more that people do filler, and this is why it's important, I think, for me, just as a consumer. The more you do filler, I think what happens is people don't let the filler fully dissolve. And so what they do is they get a little bit of filler and then it starts to dissolve a little bit. So then they go and get a little bit more. And then it just kind of builds upon filler, which I think then stretches your face out. And that's when you see people have like those really big faces. And then eventually, like it does make your skin sag because you're constantly stretching out your face and you're filling in your lines rather than, making sure the elasticity in your face is intact. More people just focus on filling, filling, filling. But if your skin's starting to droop and you're just filling, 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 one, you get that big pillow face look. And then two, like it is going to cause your face to droop because as the filler dissolves, which is possible, that you dissolve it at a faster rate because maybe your body gets used to the filler. So maybe that's what they mean that filler isn't as effective because your body does learn to metabolize it faster as it gets used to it. And so it does create that sagging. So it can create that sagging sort of look, in my own opinion. So that's why I think people are doing more of the facelifts because then that tightens the skin rather than just filling the skin. It doesn't fully dissolve or migrate over the years. I've heard different things about that. You look good, Zach. You don't need anything but a healthy lifestyle, which you do. Yeah, listen, a little bit of cosmetic procedures. I don't like to go crazy. I once got too much filler in my face and I thought I looked crazy. So that's why I like wanted to really make sure it fully dissolved. And I don't even think it's fully dissolved. So maybe there is some truth to that end of that it doesn't fully dissolve. Because I feel like my face hasn't fully gotten back to what it was before. I just look at old videos of me and I could see how sunken in my eyes are, whereas I don't feel like they're as sunken in anymore. So I still can't deal with the duck lips. Yeah, no, I've never filled my lips. I've never touched my lips are full as it is. Okay, let's talk Vicki. Jennifer Aniston just had filler migrate and it looks bad. Migrate as in it moves. What is filler migration? It moves from its injected site to other areas of the face and body. Oh, yeah, that's possible. Yeah. I just read an article that it never 100% dissolves. It migrates, and that's why people look like pillows. Yeah, because then all they keep doing is keep filling more and more and more and more and more. So then all it does is continue to make your face look super puffy. That's why what I like about Dr. Jen Armstrong, and that's why I've gone to her, is she's very much about like just little bits. Do teeny, even when it comes to Botox, like just do teeny tiny little droplets all around to get some of the finer lines. Botox, I do think is good because it prevents your skin from really developing those deep creases. Think about like when you fold a piece of paper, you can't undo that crease. So once that crease develops in your face, there's no way to undo it, right? But if you prevent the paper from folding by not allowing the paper to fold, then that crease doesn't develop. And so that's why I do believe the benefits of preventative Botox, which is where you do little bits and you start over time. Be very conservative. That's what I love about Dr. Jen, is that she's very conservative with that. She's very conservative. So yeah. Okay. Trying to wait for injections until at least 38-40. Listen, to each their own, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I have started to do them now, but I like to be a lot more frugal with it. And that's why I don't mind letting it all kind of dissolve. I don't mind letting the filler dissolve. I don't mind letting the Botox dissolve, letting my face be a little natural. So that way it kind of starts with a clean slate and then we can slowly start to build back. Because I just think I was overdoing it and I didn't like the way my face was looking. It just looked too chiclet. But at least I'm honest about it. Other people are out here doing their shit and fixing their faces with their teeth and aren't even honest about it. Botox twice a year since I turned 43, and I'll wait for a mini facelift around 60. You look great for only doing Botox twice a year, Endub. I will. Your face is like amazing. Like your skin and everything. Like you look incredible. I will say Endub knows what she's doing, and she's doing it right. Because if she's only getting Botox twice a year, which I would recommend every 6 months, is yeah. I do my own threads. Oof, threads. I don't know if I could do the threads. And I've heard mixed reviews about threads too. So I think like the mini facelifts are the new trend. Like Teddy Mellencamp looks great. Now that her facelift has kind of dissolved, because some people it looks a little crazy at first. Okay. Vicky Gunvalson has been sued for elder abuse and fraud. So she was sued by a woman named Diane Fields that is suing her this year, 2024. And she's being sued over fraudulent sales tactics. So this woman sought financial advice from Vicky and her Kodo insurance company or her Kodo financial consulting. And so she went to Vicky, sought financial advice from Vicky. Vicky initially turned her down because I guess the woman didn't have, I guess Vicky wants you to have like at least 500,000 to have an initial investment. And the woman didn't have that to invest up front. So Vicky's like, you don't have enough money for me. But she referred her to her business partner. I believe his name is Ali because he's a man and his name is spelled Ali, which I'm assuming is Ali and not Ali. So refers her to her business partner, Ali, who's also named in the lawsuit. So it's Ali, Vicky, and their companies that are named in this lawsuit. So Vicky says, go to this guy. He'll help you out. Diane ends up meeting with both Vicky and Ali. And during this time, Diane's husband gets into a bicycle accident. His health starts to deteriorate as a result of it. So in her lawsuit, she's claiming that because there was all of this going on at the time, she's claiming that there was anguish and trauma that made her vulnerable at this time. And she believes, that she wanted to believe that they were working towards her best interest and she trusted them, but she was vulnerable because her husband was sick and she was struggling at the time. Um, so Vicky then kept assuring her that Alliance, which is Ali's company, Alianz, Alliance or Alliance. I'm assuming Alliance. Vicky kept assuring her that Alliance, which is Ali's company, was safe and trustworthy. So you can trust them. You can, trust that your money is in good hands. So he was going to set her up financially to make sure her kids were taken care of after she passed away and just was going to help her lower her taxable income. And they were basically going to set her up. They were going to consult her on her finances, help her make smart financial decisions. And then eventually, she would be all good in the neighborhood. So she moved her stock funds over to Ali's Fidelity Investments Company, trusting that Ali was going to hook her up. On top of that, she claims that they convinced her to take out a life insurance policy, which cost her $300,000 per year, which she claimed wasn't entirely clear. She thought it was an upfront payment of $300,000, but it wasn't. It was an annual payment of $300,000, which she's like is a lot of money. Like, oof, this crazy. I don't know if I can continue to pay this. But she claims that Vicky assured her that the annuity that she was investing in would help lower her taxes, and this is why she ultimately trusted Ali and Alliance. Her husband ends up passing away in October 2021. So she says that this made her personal life more difficult. This made her financial situation more difficult. Yet, despite that, despite going through this passing of her husband, she said that they were convincing her to invest more money in the annuity. So then Diane ends up suffering health issues of her own, including having to, deal or having to go through surgery for lung cancer. So in 2022 is when she expresses to them, like, listen, these investments, she says that these investments that they convinced her to open up did not seem to be in her best interest. And they tied up large sums of money for a long period of time. So she's afraid that she may never be able to use it. Or that, she may not have access to it until, she's too old to enjoy. And that's her concern. It's like, I'm investing all this money and then all of this money is getting tied up. She talks to Vicky, modifies her life insurance plan. Then come April 2024, she files this lawsuit. So just a couple of months ago. And it's just now broken into the press. But so she files this lawsuit in April, claiming that the accumulation value of the policy is over $650,000. Cash surrender value was $387,000, and the death benefit is $3.5 million, with the total premium that she's paid being $100,000. The value of her IRA annuity is at $750,000. Okay, she's now claiming that Vicky continued to contact her after all of this, asking her to pay even more money. I think she asked for another $100,000 premium for the life insurance policy. And the woman's like, but I called a rep at Alliance and they denied that any payments were due. And so now she's suing for unspecified damages, accusing them of elder abuse, claiming they convinced her to invest in harmful deals during a time when she was most vulnerable because her husband was sick, her husband passed away, and then she became sick. So there was a lot going on. There was a lot of trauma that she was experiencing at the time, and she trusted them. And because she trusted them and they pushed her to engage in these harmful deals, now she's suing them. But there is an unspecified amount of damages, which is a little concerning to me. Uncertain exactly how much money she lost or where exactly the harm was in these deals. I understand she's afraid that the money may be wrapped up and she may not have access to it or be able to enjoy it anytime soon. Um, but my understanding is like she went to them to make sure that like she was covered, so her kids were taken care of if she were to pass away. But now she's saying that she's worried that she's not going to be able to enjoy this money before she passes away. So, like, why invest this money into the future for your kids if you were hoping to spend it all while you were alive? I understand that she went through like financial hardships because her husband was sick and then her husband passed and then she became sick. But I don't know, I guess without the exact details of these deals, it's unclear where the fraud was other than her feeling like she trusted them and made some bad investments, which is really what it comes down to. They advised her, and she doesn't feel like the advice that they gave her was good advice. So, yeah, I I I don't know. Insurance fraud is huge, especially now. It's disgusting. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't deny that. But Mallory says Vicky sued Kelly Dodd under a pseudonym when this lawsuit against Vicky for fraud came out. Kelly was roasting her and making fun of her for calling her a fraud in season 14. Yeah, so there was another lawsuit that came out back in 2018. This current lawsuit with this Diane woman is still ongoing. Like I said, it was just filed in April. However, according to In Touch, Vicky was also sued back in 2018 for elder abuse over a life insurance policy, which Vicky and her lawyers denied at the time, and the lawsuit was later dismissed. So Vicky technically won that lawsuit because it was dismissed, and there was no wrongdoing that they claimed that there was no wrongdoing on her end. So this isn't the first time Vicky's faced allegations of this. I know insurance fraud is becoming more common. I don't know. I mean, again, we don't know the specific details of these investments. We just know what's alleged in the lawsuit, which, again, anything can be alleged in a lawsuit. But I also kind of feel like when you trust these financial advisors, there's a chance that you can make some bad investments. And it seems like she feels like she made bad investments and they guided her wrong. But I don't know if they necessarily, I don't know, do we think that they took advantage of her and preyed on her because she was older and like her husband was sick? It's a big accusation to make. She hasn't specified exactly what money she lost or potentially lost because, again, the damages are unspecified. She's just claiming that they took advantage of her in a vulnerable time and forced her into these bad investments. But again, I don't see where the investments were necessarily bad. Lori says, when you get cancer insurance, companies prey upon when you get cancer, insurance companies prey upon you. The amount that they have contacted me is sick. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Danielle says this should affect Vicky's reputation and her name because because of this finally. Well, I mean, that's again, if the last lawsuit was dismissed, again, anybody can sue for any reason. It's not to say that I'm a Vicky fan or I like Vicky or I want to defend Vicky. We just don't. Likely it was all explained to her, but she didn't understand it, which is possible, right? And like, at what point is it unethical and what point is it illegal for you to explain things to somebody and for them to not fully comprehend it, but for them to trust it? I mean, I guess the important thing is that you have to make sure whatever you're doing, whatever you're signing up for, you understand the details entirely. Whew. Yeah, Mallory says, I think these insurance companies can write a fine line of ethics. I agree. Even if they did explain everything to her, Michelle says, I'm sure she signed something to not hold them liable. No financial advisor is going to set them up to be able to be sued when their investments don't pan out. That's the other thing. And this woman and her husband were very much big on investments. And I believe from the report, they invested 90% of their income um, into like stocks and bonds. So they're investors, right? They know how to take a gamble and know the risk of taking that gamble when you're making an investment. And sometimes investments go south. And I don't know if you can necessarily blame the person. Like, I don't think Vicky and this Ali guy were intentionally trying to scam this woman or to take any money from her or encouraging her to invest in a deal that they knew was going to be a shitty deal. I think they encouraged her to invest based off of what they thought was the best thing at the moment. And unfortunately, investments pan out. Ted with Tambo says, I don't think Vicky is guilty. Whole life builds cash value. Yeah. Endup says, cell phone companies are awful with fraud too. Why? What do cell phone companies do? Is this an ad where I'm like, do we insert Mint Mobile ad here? um, And cemetery. Yeah, cemeteries are like, do you want your loved one to be on these silk sheets with this silk pillow? It's like, what the fuck do I want them to be on a silk pillow for? They're dead. The comfort ain't there. They ain't gonna have neck issues as a result of not laying on a comfortable pillow. Homie's gone. You know, he don't need silk sheets. Give me the silk sheets. I need the silk sheets. I want to protect my skin. I want to be slipping and sliding all over the bed. Vicky has a reputation as a liar and a cancer fraud. Well, that's not fair. I mean, yes, the cancer was a lot, but we don't know that. We don't have proof that she knew the cancer was fraudulent. We knew that Brooks was the one that was lying about that. So basically, this wasn't her first rodeo. Well, it's not the first time she was sued. Doesn't mean it's not her first rodeo, Michelle. It just means that she has been sued before. But people get sued all the time for a number of things. Now, where there is smoke, there is fire, but also where there's people with money and fame, there's usually shakedowns that come with that as well. Vicky in the live chat says, "Ooh, life insurance, I'm following you now, but 90%, oh heck nah, invest a certain amount, bury the rest in the backyard until cash becomes obsolete." Here's the other thing, because I was talking to a friend that also works in finance. I'm looking for a man in finance. 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund finance. She was telling me that a lot of people, what they're doing, and this is the hard part, right? She says that a lot of people, what they're doing is they're putting their money into savings, and all they're doing is just putting their money aside, setting aside a nest egg for a rainy day. But she's like, the issue with that, with people just putting their money aside and not investing it somewhere that can build capital or build interest. The issue with that is that, and she wasn't giving me financial advice. She was just kind of, expressing to me some of her experiences as we were just chatting. Like, we're friends, and she was just, we were riffing. And she's like, the thing is, like, she's like, it's so dumb that people just put things into savings, because when you put things into savings, they don't factor in inflation. And basically, with inflation, by just leaving your money in a savings account, you're losing money because the value of that money continues to decrease. So if there's no interest being built, and there's no, investment where there's, potential to grow that money, then you're essentially losing money by leaving it in the pot or keeping it in the mattress, because that money is losing value every year as inflation goes up, which I thought was interesting. I was like, wow, I never thought about that. And again, she wasn't selling me on anything. I don't go to her for financial advice. We were just kind of chatting, and I was talking about my industry, and she was talking about her industry, as we were catching up, because we haven't met for lunch in years. And so we got together and had a good time. Just get your finances in order for the sake of your family. Yeah. The elderly and the disabled are often taken advantage of with these companies and other commission-based sellers. Yeah. But what about the homeless and the toothless, Mallory? What about them? Who's fighting for them? Oh, yeah, Jen Shaw. She fights for all the gays. Danielle says, my dad's insurance policy is what's helping me survive right now. That's why I can't stand insurance fraud. Yeah. Brittany needs to move back into the house and change the locks. Oh, with Jax. Belinda says, I'm 62 and have never used Botox. I embrace getting older. I probably might, but too old now. You look great. Thank you, Belinda. Listen, to each their own. You just need 800 count cotton thread. For the dead people, fuck that. Nah, you're getting a cardboard box. No, you're getting cremated, and you'll be nice if I buy you a cute vase, as long as the vase fits my decor. Okay? You're dead. Or you know what? I'm not even putting you in a vase. I'm spreading your ashes up. Where do you want to go? You want to go to the beach? You want to go to Disneyland? I'll put you in Thunder Mountain, right? You want a good thrill? As I'm going down the hill on Thunder Mountain, be like, woo! There you go. Luciana says, everyone needs to understand that investing way before going to an advisor. I never invest in an uninsured account. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Then you have issues like Tom Girardi, who was like taking money from people while they were in a trust, while their money was in a trust because he had access to it. Like, it's crazy. Cash needs also flow, otherwise it will inflate. Yep, good point, Wanda. That's what I was saying. Sarah says it's all scary. People need to do what feels right for them. I agree. Whether it's investing your money or Botox in your face, whatever it is, money in the bank or Botox in the face or filler under your eyes, do what works for you. And Deb says, you got to diversify, Zach. If I die, it's got to be it goes to 3 major charities. Okay. Zach is taking the person to the curb. I know that's right. Listen, when you're gone, you're gone. What do you need to be comfortable for? You're gonna be comfortable with Jesus. You ain't gonna care what sheets you're sleeping on in the grave, in the ground as your body rots. Those are some good sheets to have your body be rotting on. I ain't trying to let the maggots sleep well. No, thank you, sir. And Nikki B says, cash is king. Have some handy. Maybe not all of US will just buy gold. Okay. And FTA Music says, you're getting a cardboard box. Oh my God, Zach, you're hilarious. Sarah says, anyone hear Melissa's old nose on the velvet rope? People have DM'd me about it. I haven't listened to it yet, though. Precious metals are king cash in the concept of lien credit. Yes. Buy real estate and borrow money. Will no one learn? I mean, yeah, those are, listen, everybody has different, I've heard don't buy real estate, invest in real estate, don't do this, put your money here, invest your money there. I've heard it all over the place. Luciana says, I have a savings account with high interest amount of 5.25%. You have to have a minimum of $10,000 before getting this higher rate. Also, everyone get a will and trust account. Yep. Money talk. What's that? We're all over the place. We were talking about radical transparency on a podcast. We were talking about Botox and filler in your face, and now we're having money talks. We all over the place. Okay, last thing I wanted to touch on today. Michelle says, it's a gamble. Pick your poison. Got to play to win. True dat. Vicky said, Vicky in the live chat, Vicky Valancourt says, Shannon Doherty did all that. She downsized, liquidated things just in case for her family. RIP. Well, she also knew she was dying. Like she had stage 4 cancer she was dying for a while. Not many of us have that sort of heads up. Hey, start to act now. You might be gone soon. RIP to Shannon Doherty. Much respect to her. I went on a deep dive on her relation, or not her relationship, but her history, her work history. And so after she got fired from 90210, then she got fired from Charmed, and then she went on to do Scare Tactics, which I don't know if anybody remembers. It was like that prank show where they scare the shit out of people. And she did that for a season and a half. And she exited halfway through season 2, which I'm like, that doesn't sound good. And it was I couldn't really find out whether she was fired from Scare Tactics or whether she quit Scare Tactics or what the situation was. However, something happened with Scare Tactics and she exited halfway through season 2, and then they replaced her with somebody else. And I was like, Jesus. And then she ended up going on to do, she did another show. I forgot what the name of the show. It was like a beach show. It was a drama. She did that, but that didn't pan out. And then she went and did Breaking Up with Shannon Doherty, which only lasted a season. And I'm just like, she never really had like a long-standing job. And I'm like, maybe she wasn't the problem. Like, I get it. She was a rebel. We've discussed all of this. And I'm like, I think she was just somebody that took her craft very seriously and was a very strong woman. And I think that was obviously, it was something that was often frowned upon for you to be a woman with a voice. And she was unapologetic about having a voice and having an opinion. And, yeah. Mary Ann Stout says, my ride's here, heading home to finish my recovery. See you tomorrow, guys. Well, thank you, Mary Ann Stout. Thank you for joining us. She's like, my ride's here. Bye. Endup says, my mom just sent a morbid file with all of her information in case she passes. Of course, it's all handwritten on school paper sheets. Well, damn. Tell her to go to Trust and Will and invest in a trust and a will. Listen, when you lose people and people start dying and you realize all these things, and it's a mess. Make it all very clean and clear. I will say this, having to just, my great grandmother just passed away earlier this year. My grandmother passed away in 2021. You learn a lot, right? And so make sure everything is clearly in writing. Even when you say, hey, there are 2 of you or 3 of you or 4 of you, you're all my children and I want to divide my assets equally. You decide how they're divided. Don't fucking do that, because all they're going to do is fight and somebody's going to end up with a butter knife in their throat. Okay? So just make it all very clear. Jennifer, you get the bed. Kelsey, you get the car. This car, not that car. The broken down car, not the car that works because you can afford to fix it. Joe, you get the car that's not broken down because you're probably going to need it. Like, make it all very clear. End Up says, I'm her only child, so by now everything is in our names. Well, there you go. All Zach's money is going to the homeless and the toothless. Hide the butter knives. Yes, Sharon. Okay, John Jansen was just on Carlos King's podcast. I'll give you the highlights and then we'll wrap up for the day because I know we're already going pretty long. I knew it was going to be a long episode, but I didn't know we are going to go on all these crazy side tangents. But I didn't listen to the interview, but here are the recaps from Reddit. These were shared by Midnight Rider 88 in the Bravo Real Housewives Reddit thread. Okay, so according to John Jansen, the majority of people don't know that he didn't want to film with Shannon. So he claims. But he claims that she wouldn't have survived if she didn't have the job. So he did it so that she would be able to have a job, which I don't think is true. I think she would have had a job regardless if John Jansen was on the show or not, right? He says that he tried to make the best out of having to film, but he didn't want to film. And now he's hurt financially and hurt emotionally due to all of Shannon's lies about him. He says that Bravo isn't at fault for any of this, and the cast doesn't like him only because they believe drunk Shannon. Why do we have to keep calling Shannon a drunk? Why can't we just call her like a proud alcoholic? You know, I think drunk is a not nice term. I don't want to be called a drunk. You can call me an alcoholic, and I will own it. He says that he's never talked to Emily, and he doesn't understand why she talks so badly about him because she's like, I've been around him. I think he's a douche. And I think it's true. From what we've seen of John Jansen, he definitely seems like a douche. So Emily's experience of John has only been an unpleasant one, and based off of things she knows about his relationship with Shannon. And I don't think Shannon's just getting drunk and making all of this up. I think there is some validity and truth to it. Carlos asks what it's like dating Shannon, and John responds in a patronizing way. I just challenge people to think what it might be like being with Shannon. I mean, I wouldn't think it would be that. Listen, it takes two to tango, right? I hate when people are in a situation and they only blame the other person. I've said this even when I've had disputes or falling outs or, heartbreak or whatever. It takes two to tango, and I can always take responsibility for my side of the street, right? Whether there was behavior that was being enabled, or there were things that were being excused, or red flags that were being ignored, or you were poking the bear, or whatever it was, or you were staying beyond, when your gut was telling you to leave. You always contributed to it. One person is not entirely toxic. It takes two to tango. The relationship and the situation can be toxic, But he said being with Shannon was like failing all day, every day. Yikes. Again, shitty. Like, I don't want to be in the public. I don't want to talk about Shannon. Shannon keeps trashing me, but you know what? I'm going to go on a podcast and I'm going to trash her, and I am going to be in the public. So, yeah. Danielle says, you're an alcoholic if you misuse alcohol and have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. Oh, no, my relationship with alcohol is very healthy. We have a great relationship. I wouldn't say I misuse it. I just use it often, and we work very well together. John Jansen tried. It says that he tried, but they were never meant to be together. And now that Shannon's out of his life, the stress is out of his life as well. Carlos says that he never believed that John Jansen was the cause of Shannon's drama. But Carlos thinks that Shannon Beador was still in love with her ex-husband, David Beador. And John Jansen disagrees. He doesn't think that she's still in love with her ex. John Jansen says that he never watched Alexis on the show. Alexis is a great person, a wonderful mother, speaks very highly of her. And then when it comes to Alexis, she says that she started filming 3 months after the death of her mom and her breakup with her fiance, which is why she was so emotional. Well, shit, if you just broke up with your fiance and you're 3 months fresh, then like jumping into this very public relationship, like, listen, when people jump into a relationship and it becomes so public so fast, like that's a little worrisome. She's showing this guy on the show. They're doing promised rings promised rings together, Joe, Zack Peter, 7/31/2024. I don't misuse it, alcohol. I just use it often, period. Yeah, it was a hashtag promised ring, not a promise ring. But again, it's way too fucking public and they're like too goo goo gaga over each other, considering she just like you need time, you know, to like heal and like recover from from a fiance, not just a boyfriend, but a fiance. Alexis claims that John's not a fame whore, and she also says that John Jansen offered to pay Alexis the same amount of money as Real Housewives of Orange County if she didn't do the show. So he said, "I'll pay you out to not be on the show," which then makes me wonder, well, then why did she do the show? Because she's like, I didn't want to do I was worried about doing the show because I thought it was going to hurt Shannon, and then now she's saying that she didn't have to do the show and that John was proudly going to pay her to not do the show. So why did she do the show? What was the point of doing the show? Um, Alexis claims that John Jansen doesn't want attention, that Shannon's just lying. John only does red carpets with her because she asks him to. John regularly denies doing interviews. She's madly in love with John, even though she's getting completely demolished because of Shannon. She says that it will be shown profusely throughout the season that Shannon's words have no merit. Curious to see how that looks. And she also says that Shannon's a liar. Just wait and see. They also talk about Shannon's claiming of love bombing because they're like, well, how does John love bomb you if he's also broke and he doesn't give you anything? Like, how does that make sense? Well, it absolutely makes sense because love bombing isn't about gift bombing. It's not about buying you a bunch of things. Love bombing is by manipulating your emotions by, giving you an abundance of attention and love. That way you feel special, and then they're frugal about when they give you that special reward of their attention and affection, which can be in abundance to hook you, and then they pull back and they take it away. And then they use that over you. And so you're like, "Oh, but you were so sweet at the beginning, and then you took it away. But now I want to work towards that because I want to make sure that like I continue to get that behavior because I deserved that and I was earning of that at one point, and now I want to get back to that point." Right? It's chasing the dragon. Alexis also says that you'll see more of Shannon's erratic and emotional roller coaster as the season progresses. Well, yeah, she's going to be erratic and an emotional roller coaster. She has to now deal with this woman that's now banging her ex-boyfriend, who is claiming she's a drunk and a liar after going through this DUI situation. She's lost her friendship with Tamara. Shannon's going through the mud. I get it. Partially because of her own decisions, but she's still going to be going through it. So I would imagine, yeah, she's going to be a little erratic and emotional. And I think that that's valid and fair. So Carlos is being sued over the death on love. Oh, I didn't realize that it was one, a death, and two, I didn't realize he was being sued. Interesting. Didn't know that T. What else? She says that Real Housewives of Orange County has true friendships, so does Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and the other franchises don't, which is why they're not as good as Real Housewives of Orange County. Which I don't know about that. I feel like Orange County was struggling for a minute, but I do agree the history and the stakes between these women is definitely what makes OC top tier in the moment. She defends Jen and Ryan. She says that Ryan's a stand-up guy. She's good friends with Tamara, and she doesn't like Gina and Emily because I think she considers them to be fake based off of who they are in person versus like the things that they say in their confessionals. So, whew. Wow. That was a lot. Nothing worse than a stage 4, stage 5 clinger. Who's the clinger? Shannon or Alexis? It's more than you're my person and my future and my forever talk so early in the relationship with Shannon and Alexis. Yeah. See, but I think that's love bombing. Considering again, you forget the context that Alexis just got out of an engagement and now she's already with this other guy who's buying her, you know, and a promised ring and, making her feel special. I'm sure at the beginning of his relationship with Shannon, it was amazing too, right? And then eventually he started to show his true colors. They haven't been together that long, so I'm curious to see where this goes from here. We shall see. We shall see. What is L and MH? Love and Married Hollywood? Love and Married something. Love and Marriage, sorry. Love and Marriage. It's a reality show. That's a lot to deal with for Alexis. She was really close to her mom as well. Yeah, that's again, grieving, right? She lost her mother. She's going through the loss of this engagement that she had, that she's in a vulnerable state. I mean, shit, Vicki should come and try to sell her life insurance because she's in a vulnerable state. She's trusting John Jansen. Love you, Zach. Quick in and out lunch meeting. Hi, Donna. Donna Bell, thank you for coming on in. Mallory says that's a lot for her to deal with. And Nikki says, Emily, I've never seen anywhere in OC where she came from. She must have been a real homebody. Emily on OC, she came from, isn't she from Long Island or Staten Island? I don't know. She's from some island. Some island with bad hair. Sharon says, I've gone through a lot over the years and I didn't become a bitch to other people. That's a good point. Listen, you can go through shit in life and not be a bitch to people. That's a good point. I don't think Shannon's being a bitch to anybody, though. She's a bit of an emotional wreck, but Emily's from Ohio. Oh, Emily. I don't know why I was thinking Gina when people said Emily. Gina is, sorry. I read Emily, but was thinking Gina. That's why I said Staten Island. I don't know where Emily's from. It's also a red flag how he talks about Shannon, in my opinion, how someone talks about their ex is how they will talk about you. Yeah. Don't bury the Jack story. I didn't bury the Jack story. We talked about the Jack story for a good minute, Donna Lynn. Vicki Valancourt says, nothing wrong with Alexis dating him. Ew. But dang, she's being mean girl, though. It is a little unpalatable. I don't think she's being mean girl necessarily, but it is tough to watch considering we're knowing that Shannon's going through a lot. Okay. That said, thank you guys for watching No Filter or listening to No Filter with Zack Peter. I am here streaming live every morning on YouTube, Monday through Thursday, with bonus episodes for members that live streams Thursday nights and is released on Fridays. So you get a members only bonus episode every week. Sometimes they get me in trouble and I have to take them down. So listen to them while they're live. Thank you guys for listening and supporting the podcast. Be sure to tune into Disaster Daters. Be sure to tune into the Pop Report. Like I said, the new episode of Disaster Daters will be available on YouTube later today. There's a new episode of the Pop Report out right now. You can listen to it on all streaming platforms. Same thing with Disaster Daters. And be sure to subscribe to the Pop Report for all of the latest tape. Like I said, we talk the Olympics. We talk about a lot of stuff. Mermaids. We talk about Katy Perry's new music, Lady Gaga's new music, Gypsy Rose crime photos being released. We get into a lot. Marvel, Comic-Con, all that good stuff. So be sure to tune into the Pop Report. New episode is out now, and subscribe to us on YouTube. The link is in the description below, as is the link to subscribe on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to subscribe to the Pop Report as well. We're so close to 1,000. We're 50 away from 1,000. So be sure to subscribe right now if you haven't done so yet. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Happy hump day. Hope you get humped today. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.